I'm in the sorority. Someone's like, oh my God, did you get hazed? I'm like, no. They're like, well, what do you mean you didn't get hazed? Are you wearing letters? What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I wear letters just like everybody else. They're like, well, you ain't part of the sorority or fraternity. You didn't actually go through anything. I feel it's kind of bogus. I feel it's kind of wrong that people have that mentality about sororities and fraternities. Regardless if I went through something like this next person, I'm still wearing my letters and I'm still part of it.
Like, going off of what she said, like when I joined, people kept asking me like, what happened? Did I get beat and stuff? And like, I was like, no, like you don't hate and stuff. And then like I had to point out like, even if we don't like earn our letters like through hazing, like we earn it a different way.
I have something to add to that. When GVSU came to Grand Valley, we actually went to national board and wanted them to make GVSU a non-hazing sorority in general. So we ended up changing the whole national board and the whole system to make it non-hazing. So I think that if all the organizations could do that and went to national board, we could change everything.
I know you guys said it takes one person to ruin the whole thing for everyone, but I think about it. This is Grand Valley, and we don't go through the same things as state and Michigan. I feel like if we continue like this, it takes one person to ruin the whole thing for everyone, but we have a whole school, which means we could change things, and we could keep it going strong.
To go off of what Scott was saying, I'm an ASA for life. When I leave here, I'm not done with my sorority. And if I'm an ASA for life, I don't want it to die out, especially on the campus where I join. So I think we need to realize, okay, things are good at Grand Valley, now let's move on. Now let's go to other schools, to other chapters, to actually do something, even if it's things like UIFI, things like that, where you can talk about things and say, to me, even when all of you are saying, okay, I don't need a negative experience to say I went through something, tell people that. If you express to them what your letters mean to you and why initiation to you means more than hazing, then explain it. If we go out, that's when we can make a big change.
We're able to control these things here at our campus. We've only been in a school for 50 years. Some of these schools have been around for nearly 200 years or more. They've been having Greek campuses for quite a while. I know DePaul is 85% Greek. Well, they have these rituals. They have these things that are controlled on their campus that no matter what people say, like they're still going to follow this, because that one person that went to UIFI, he can only say so much until it's just frowned upon again. We can be the change here, but how do we show that to other people?
And like going along with that, like who controls it? Because as far as I know, especially being the former president of NPHC, two organizations were kicked off campus for hazing, which is Phi Beta Sigma and Zeta Phi Beta. And another MGC organization was kicked off for hazing. So like who's controlling it?
Well, to go off what you said, a lot of the traditions that we have in our Greek organizations, when Fired Up came last time, they kind of explained to us that traditions are kind of like on a 5-year rotation, like a 5-year rotation, because that's when students like kind of change. Like the freshmen that joined is kind of out of college by then. So a lot of these traditions that we think are long-standing are as long as our like Greek community's been around. They're actually not. They're probably like 5 years old, and then they kind of rotate after those students leave. Some of them are obviously written down like our actual ritual for our fraternity, but like those little things that like if you grabbed your ritual book and looked at like, oh, like you have to do this to get in and it's not in your ritual book, that was probably created less than 5 years ago, is what Fired Up said.
But the freshmen that go through it, they're going to want to treat the same to the freshmen. Yeah. That's how the 5 year turns into 10 year, turns into 30 years.
Turns to a tradition.
Last night I was Facebook chatting with one of the guys that I went to UIFI with, and I guess this is like a good conversation to have after the conversation I had with him, because it really, I guess, made me realize that hazing and like having your chapter kicked off campus can happen. He goes to a school in Virginia, and he's the IFC president. And last night he was telling me about how his chapter is now suspended from their campus because hazing charges were brought up against them. and there's nothing that they can do about it. And he was made to step down from IOC. They lost all their privileges, and like this just recently happened within like the last like week and a half. And like I know that here on Grand Valley's campus, you know, hazing charges have been brought up against other chapters, and sororities and fraternities have been kicked off from every council. But I guess I've never really experienced it to the point where someone that I know that also went to UIFI is now dealing with this with his chapter. Like, he learned all the same things that I learned and Kristen learned, and you know, all these guys learned at UIFI. And yes, we can bring them back to our schools and we can bring them back to our chapters, but who's to say that something wrong can't happen? Like, something can happen, and you know, in a snap, your fraternity or sorority could be kicked off campus and you're done. And I think that that's something that we really need to realize, is that this is an issue. Yeah, it may not be a huge issue here at Grand Valley, but it does happen. And I mean, I've seen hazing happen at Western. My best friend's in one of the sororities there, and I've seen it happen. And it's on my conscience that I didn't, you know, stand up and say you should be doing that. I said after the fact, like, why are you doing that? But at that moment, I wasn't really thinking. And the stories that she's told me about what she has personally done to their new members, it's just like completely unnecessary. I don't know why she does it. And I've asked her before, like, what's the point? There is no point to hazing. Like, yeah, people even in my UIFI group said, we haze our members and we think it's okay because we want to create a stronger brotherhood or sisterhood. And we believe that hazing is a way to do it. But at some schools, they just haze because they want to haze, and that's just the way it happens. And my best friend's sorority at Western was shut down for 2 weeks while their headquarters came in and investigated what was going on. And yeah, their headquarters gave them back and reinstated them like 2 weeks later, but they still haven't come to that realization that like this is real, like this can happen. And she's still off doing whatever and hazing and doing, you know, everything that we as organizations shouldn't be doing. And I think that that's something we really have to come to grips with, is that, yeah, it's not happening here, but it's happening at surrounding schools.